What's up, everybody? It's Coach Dave, and I lift.
Coach Carol, I also lift. Welcome to the She Lifts.
He Lifts podcast, and tonight we are getting back to basics. That's right, back to basics, because y'all are going to be heading into the gym in 3 weeks.
What is that? There's nothing on your wrist.
I know, I don't.
In about
But it looked good.
Weeks.
It was a nice effect, right?
About 3 weeks.
About 3 weeks, right?
Yeah.
Because that's what my watch tells time
That's
in
right.
weeks.
It does.
In 3 weeks, we're all going to be heading back to the gym. And I'm going to say this, even the people who are currently consistent or consistent-ish are going to sort of reset in the beginning of the year. And one of the things I really want to talk about is what we are doing the first, I'm going to say, for a month or so that we walk into the gym, because that's when we're really going to develop the habits that are going to allow us to progress in our fitness journey.
Right. And for those of you who've been working out, trust me when I say it's good to revisit what you do and what you've kind of let, I'm just going to let that slide for now. Maybe I'll get back to that later. I think we're all guilty of that.
Oh, absolutely. And I made this analogy, I think last week or the week before, when I talked about athletes, when you learn sort of like a trick play or something, and then you start practicing that, and then the next thing you know, again, you learn a crazy behind the back pass or some spinning layup, and then the next thing you know, your free throws are because you spend so much time practicing your spin and layup that you're not shooting free throws anymore.
So a lot of good information here. As always, we have to have some kind of disclaimer, right? If you haven't worked out before, you probably should check with your doctor. Make sure there's nothing big, bad, and ugly going on before you start working out, and especially before you start working with a coach. Like, we want to know. We want to know if you got something going on.
And really, and guys, a little sidebar on this one. If there is a problem, tell us. Don't try to hide it, or don't be like, oh, I didn't think that was a big deal. Because trust me, when you start getting back into this, those things tend to rear their ugly head.
Right. And we need to know. So, always a disclaimer. And sometimes it can help us optimize as a coach. It can help us optimize a workout for you if we know that there's an issue that we need to work around. So with that said, still no excuses. You can still do something. Everyone pretty much can do something. So things to me, back to basics. And I am terribly guilty of, maybe not as guilty. Well, yeah, I'm guilty. Okay, I'm just guilty. Warming up before I work out.
Oh.
Yeah, and I should. I really should.
I'm not guilty. That I can say one thing. I am not guilty of that. I make sure I do that.
I take the approach of like, does a cheetah actually warm up before they go after their prey? No, they just start running. Are you a cheetah? No, not last time I checked. But anyway, that was my logic.
Says the girl who says you should never run for or from anything.
For or from anything. No, I mean, so I will tell you that I do this kind of stuff in the morning, but this is before you work out, warm up. Warm up. You don't be a cheetah. Don't just come in here and be like, I'm going to go over there and I'm just going to deadlift 500 pounds. Like, don't do that. You need to warm up. So during your warm up, it's best to avoid static stretching, which we will go over. Warm ups are more dynamic stretching. So static is when you hold a position for 30 seconds. And that actually, if you do that before you work out, can cause problems and negatively affect your workout. So stretches that involve movement, gradually warm up your muscles and increase your flexibility. And the ones that I like are ankle circles. And again, like, I'll do these in the morning. I just don't do these before I work out, but you should. Ankle circles, leg swings, where you stand and you're just basically going to hold your arm out and kind of kick up to your arm, and do that a few times. Shoulder rolls, arm circles, neck turns, not neck rolling. We talked about that before the show. Neck rolling, bad. Neck turns, good. Like down, turn,
good.
Up and down. Right?
Bad.
No, bad. Don't roll. Just, put your chin down to your chest. Look way up. Look right. Look left. Do that a few times and just get your body moving.
And I'm going to say this, you wrestlers out there, and you know who you are. That is a big thing that we were always taught when I was wrestling, to roll your neck. And then you would do neck bridges where you would put your head on the mat.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. Oh,
no.
Yeah. That was dumb shit. One other thing I'm going to throw in here too is you mentioned shoulder rolls.
Yeah.
I'm a real big in shoulder mobility. Because I have the shoulder more so, I think, even than the knee or the back is something that can really knock you out of the gym. So,
for a long time.
warm your shoulders up with a band. Either the booty band, you can put it around your wrist and sort of stretch it out and flex your arms. A long resistance band with the handle on it, or a loop where you can sort of work on circles, work on the internal and external rotation of the shoulder, fire up the rotator cuffs, get those things, especially guys. And guys, these are one of those things we talk, Carol always mentions about habits and how long it takes to create habits. If you can create these habits now, especially for you younger listeners out there, if you create these habits in your teens, your 20s, even in your 30s, when you get to be in your 40s and 50s, like Carol and I, then you will not have those issues in your shoulder, in your back, those things. Foam rolling is another one. I think that if, especially for my legs.
I didn't even put that on here, but that is a good one. Post-workout, again, a little guilty. I usually work out.
I'm so guilty of.
I know, when I get done working out, I'm like, what am I going to eat? That's all. That's where my mind is. I'm like, and it's not like, it's because I'm hungry and because I want to put back, the protein and the carbs so my body recovers quicker. And there's theories out there. Do you have to do it within the first 30 minutes to an hour? No, but
what, as far as the eating?
Yeah, you really don't. But just go eat. But anyway, I'm usually just hungry anyway, so I'm guilty of running out of the gym. You should do static stretching after the gym, and that's like quad stretches where you're standing quad stretch, standing hamstring, child's pose, which I adore and love to do that all the time. So you can incorporate that. A lateral child's pose, which is like both sides. That one's different. You'd probably have to look up a video on that. Like glute stretching, reclining knees to chest is a good one. Those are the static hold. What?
Huh?
You look like you wanted to say something. No? Okay. Another basic, revisit body weight exercises. Like, you can do body weight exercises to correct things form-wise that maybe you've let slip.
I'm going to get into that in a minute.
Yep.
The body weight exercise, because that is something that I think that a lot of people, especially guys, we want to go right into the heavy lifting.
Of course you do.
But there's some things that we can go get into. There's a couple of other things too. I would toss in the list of post-workout. One is like Carol said, sort of learn your body in terms of this. There is some science, according to what Carol was talking about eating within the 30 minutes to an hour, about it, and the science actually says that it will improve your gains, but it's minimal. It's
correct.
It's
like
minimal. So if you miss your 30-minute protein shake,
right,
it's not the end of the world. Like, you're not gonna go catabolic in 31 minutes because you were you missed your anabolic window.
Right.
But you do want to refuel your body after your workout. And so along with the stretching, I like to have, I've said this before, I like to have a protein shake with a scoop of fast digesting carb in it, glucose or maltodextrose. If you don't want to spend the money on the carb, protein bar and a banana, a scoop of protein and some sort of a fruit, something like that. This is your one little pass where you can have some sort of a simple sugar.
And the reason, like, when you're talking shakes post-workout, the reason, like, I'm all about food for, most of your protein, but there is a reason and a good reason that you would do a shake post-workout. And it's just that your body is going to be able to absorb it faster. You digest it quicker, it gets into your body faster, and there's a benefit to that.
And that is why the carb.
Right.
When you have those simple sugars, they sort of bond with the protein. They get the protein into your. Now, I will say also, I'm going to throw one other little side note in there. You better, if you do have, like I do with the shake, with the scoop of the carb in it, you better have a meal like not too far from you.
Yeah.
I honestly, I was here at Mile one time working out, stopped by the grocery store on the way home, and like was starting to get lightheaded in the grocery store because I was basically buying the stuff to make my lunch, and I'm just like, I can't do this. Right. I had to go wait in the car. Right. But yeah, the other thing you mentioned earlier, you mentioned sort of post-workout is the stretching, and I think that is something we kind of get that mixed up. We go into the static stretching. You elongate your muscles when you static stretch. Now your muscles are, first of all, your muscles are warm now. When you static stretch at the beginning of your workout, even if you got on the treadmill or something, your muscles are still a little quote unquote cold,
Right.
you run yourself a greater risk of injury.
Correct.
Okay, when you're done your workout, whether you're lifting, whether you're cardio, whatever you're doing, your muscles are now, your core temperature is hot, your muscles are warm. It's like spaghetti. You take a dry spaghetti noodle, put a little flexion on it, it's going to snap. You take wet spaghetti, boiled spaghetti noodle.
That was excellent sound effects.
Wasn't it that?
Oh, yes. So that's the reason that we warm up before and we stretch and we do afterward. And then talking about body weight, you know, we got in and then we got right back off of that. You talk about guys want to go in and lift heavy, but let me tell you, if you ever want to kick your own tail, take a week where you do a Pilates workout. Like a Pilates workout is generally body weight. And I did one time that was just all abs. And I looked at the exercises and I'm like, oh, this is we're talking a 15-minute, 20-minute workout. I was so gassed after that. And like days later, I was torn up and I was like, wow, that's impressive. That was just my body and the resistance of my own body to do different things. So revisit body weight only. And like I said, you know, you don't have to, it's not like you have to change over and never lift again, but once in a while, shake it up, go back to the basics. But this is where you come in when we talk about body weight and movement, right? Like you get as excited about as I do about fiber.
I do because one of the things I talk about, and I've been accused of, oh, you want to train everybody like an athlete. First of all, I don't really train athletes for the most part, especially young athletes. Most of who I train, most of the young people are trained. Let me rephrase that. I do train young athletes, but I usually train them more to teach them how to lift correctly than I do necessarily in sport-specific movement.
Okay.
But a lot of times I find with the young athletes, even they don't know how to move their body weight in space. And as I always talk about training for the game of life, one of the most functional things you can do in life is learn how to control your own body.
Right.
And if you can do push-ups, body weight squats, pull-ups, which so many people can't do, guys, and I couldn't even do until I was in my 40s. Pull-ups, body weight rowing motions, hip hinges. There's a lot of movement that we can learn of how to move our body so we can avoid injuries as we do things in our normal everyday life. Before we even start there, though, I'm going to go a layer deeper than that. Before we even learn how to move that, there's a thing called corrective exercises, guys. And this is where a coach, a trainer, a fitness professional, even a physical therapist, if you want to go that route, is going to come into play. And find yourself someone who's going to analyze and sort of grade your posture and get yourself into a right posture before you even get the leg. There are things we can do like face pulls. There's movements you can do with your weighted movements you can do with your neck and a band. I'm trying to think of a couple of other ones. Pull throughs, glute bridges, rotator cuff exercises.
Right.
Those types of things to get your core, your glutes, your abs, your chest, your neck muscles, your posterior chain, get that all back in line before we even put a weight in our hand.
Right, before you put a load on, yeah.
Because those are the things, when we start, it's like building a house. When you're beginning a fitness journey, you think of yourself as building the house. The house is the body that you're trying to get. And whether it's you want to get completely ripped or you want to just lose some weight or you feel better about yourself, at some point you are going to want to have a solid foundation which to build your house on. Yep. I make this analogy. If you have a house on a weak foundation and you put an expensive chandelier in your living room, the houses can still come down at any point. Work on your foundation first, and those things, like I said, your posture, learning to move your body weight, being able to hold a plank, okay? Even if it's on your hands, because I know some people have, for a lot of people, it's easier on their hands, but then on their elbows.
Okay.
Because of shoulder stress.
There's always a modification.
Well, there's always a modification.
Always a modification.
Let me tell you what, I have some senior clients who are in their mid to late 60s on through 78 years old, I think. And I don't have them do planks on the floor, not on their hands, not on their elbows. I'll put them on a plyo box. I'll put their hands on a plyo box or a bench, and then I'll work my way down from there. If you can't squat, if you can't hold a squat position for 30 seconds before I get you to start squatting, I'm going to have you sit on a plyo box or on a bench, depending on how tall you are, and stand up.
Yep.
Once you sort of got that down and it becomes easy just standing up and not just leaning forward and falling out of the chair and catching yourself, but actually driving through your heels.
Right.
To get your hips up in the air. Yep. Once you get that down, then I'm going to put a weight in your hand. Once I put the weight in your hand, I'm going to have you start doing that. Then I'm going to start having you squat with a TRX band.
Yeah.
Guys, there's a lot of things we can do when it comes to learning how to move our body weight. And I feel like that is one of those things that is so underrated, especially today where sort of lifting has become, and I hate to use the word for it, but it's kind of the fad right now.
Sure.
It's a good fad.
I agree.
But it is sort of the trendy thing is.
Right. And you talk in the context of these movements, which are super, super important. You know, you have basic movements, and you're talking about, like, you know, for younger, you know, late teen, early 20s, so that you don't get injured. But the other side of that is as you age, and it's never too late to start. Like, I started lifting and working out at 40. That's late. I was not an athlete at all. I mean, it wasn't like I did stuff and just stopped and came back. It was starting cold. It's never too late, because those movements as you age, if you drop something on the floor, you should be able to hinge at your hip and pick it up without getting hurt, right? As you get older. To get on and off of a toilet by yourself, what are you doing?
Squatting.
A squat, right? Like,
Or getting in your car.
True. Yep. I mean, there's all kinds of things. To plank, to be able to push up if you were to fall, how do you get off the floor, right? These are movements that are going to benefit you well into latter years, just to be able to function on your own, so that you don't have to be, you know, in assisted living way before you should, because your body doesn't know how to move.
I agree. And that goes back to the training for the game of life. Yeah. You know, again, like I've said before, we're not here to be bodybuilders. We're not here to be athletes. We're not here to be fitness models. We're here to improve our quality and longevity of life. And when we start with the basics, when we start with a solid warm-up, start with a solid foundation of strength, and then once let's say you come in and you have a physical on your feet job, so your posture's not terrible. You can control your body weight. You can do, let's say, 20 plus push-ups in one clip. Okay. You can hold a squat for 30 seconds. You can hold a plank. Maybe I got to correct your squat and or lunge form, but it's more of a form correction than sort of a postural correction. I can do that within the first. I can correct your form in one session if you listen. Right. But let's say you're beyond that point and we can go right into lifting weights. What if you've never lifted a weight? Next thing you need to know is to learn the form on how to lift weights before you start throwing extra weight and extra resistance. Yep. And I don't care if you're using bands. I don't care if you're using dumbbells. I don't care if you're using heavy barbells. Learn the mechanics of a overhead press, an overhead pulling motion, a horizontal press, and a horizontal pulling motion, and a squat before you start loading up those movements.
Yeah.
Let me tell you what, if you are coming from a place, even if you are not posturally deficient or strength deficient, but you are, let's say, out of shape,
okay,
meaning cardiovascularly, your muscles aren't necessarily toned, those types of things. Okay. Learning just the mechanics will be a workout for you. Even under a light load, which when I first put that load in your hand, but now I'm going to have you do 20 reps just to get the motion right. That's going to be a workout for a beginner.
Yep. So if you've never lifted, where do you start? You're brand new to the gym. Come middle of January, you waited. You didn't take our advice from the last episode. You waited till mid-January. Now it's crowded. The gym is crowded. People are cranky. No, I'm just kidding. What do you do? Like, you've never done anything and you don't have a coach. You don't have D. What do you do?
So I'm going to say this. I am a big fan, and I will even start people who I am training on machines.
Okay.
The reason I like to start with machines is there's a greater margin for error on machines.
Greater or no, less?
Greater. You could be wrong more
On a machine?
than you can. If when I say your margin for error is greater, that means you can do the movement wrong in a larger range of wrong and still not hurt yourself.
Okay, I was like, wait, hold on.
Yes, greater margin for error. Margin is the space in between.
Okay.
So you can work in a larger margin for error. For most people, if you get in a chest press machine and you bring your elbows up too high, the worst thing that you're going to do is you're going to put tension on the shoulder instead of on the chest.
Okay, I'll buy that.
Okay.
But if you go right to the bench and you load it,
if you go to
and you don't have a spotter, you got a problem.
You're going to hurt yourself. You're going to drop the weight on yourself.
Tear something.
Yeah.
Okay.
You younger people, you're going to go in there and you're probably not going to do a proper warm up, and you're going to be ice cold. Next thing you know, you're going to have you're going to pull a pec tendon or a bicep tendon, and now you're holding New Year's resolution shot.
Yeah, you're out.
Start with the machine.
Okay.
And yes, there are certain machines that I will say I am not big fans of as you progress.
Mm-hmm.
And there's certain ones. There's one or two that I'm even not really wild about for beginners. I would almost rather teach them have them use a band, or teach them the dumbbell exercise in the first.
Right.
Lateral raise being one of those. But for the most part, you're not going to hurt yourself as badly on a machine.
True. And the other thing about machines, so when you first get started, now, should you only do machines forever and ever and ever? We could argue every point back and forth. There are some people, maybe you're elderly and maybe, this is what you're going to do. Fine, do that. But we're talking about, like, if we want to progress into things, I would say you're not going to do machines forever. But if and Cameron just mentioned this the other day, like, she posted something here about Model A. She's got a small circuit. One half is your lower body and the other half's your upper body. Mm-hmm. Hit the circuit. Go do 2 or 3 machines. If you only have 20 minutes to a half an hour, that's an efficient workout. You're not loading plates. You're not taking that. Get in and get it done. Mm-hmm. Do something versus do nothing.
Well,
right?
and as a beginner, I am a big one to do something versus nothing.
Sure.
Now, again, this is sort of a mindset thing, which we're not really talking about today, but I'm going to say as you go further along in your journey, you have to learn to prioritize. But at the beginning, when you quite haven't figured out the scheduling and the timing and how long it takes you to do something and recovery and all that stuff, you're right. I've only got 20 minutes to be there, let me figure out something. And again, machines are quick because you can do a set, you can wait there, you don't have to change weights, you don't have to get up and put weights back.
Right.
You can click with a pin, or some machines even have what are they called? Pneumatic machines, which are like compressed air resistance. It's just a quick push of a button and it changes the resistance. So machines are a great way to start.
They're good. Just make sure. So, again, like as a coach, as somebody who has had things, I actually hurt myself on one years ago. If it doesn't feel right, if something like you're in a seat, you're trying, get it adjusted right. For the love of Pete, make sure you're sitting in the right position, so that you don't do something silly.
And I'm going to say this, and going back to Carol's point, even if you're not you're not actively looking for a coach or a trainer,
right?
There's usually one floating around the gym somewhere talking to people that will help you.
Ask questions.
I usually, if I'm not with a client and you need to help with a machine, I'll show you how to get yourself.
Sure, I used to do that at the gym,
Absolutely.
and I know Cameron will do that here. Cameron does an orientation, 100%.
The other gym that I work at, any of the trainers, and even the front desk staff, if they're not busy, they'll come out because they all work out.
And you're never going to know it all. So, like, step back, take a look at stuff. Basics are good. We talked about this the other week too. If you're new to the gym, spend some time just getting used to the equipment, like what it looks like, what does what. Get used to the circuit first. Look at other pieces of equipment before you get involved. Consider hiring a coach. That's the good stuff.
I'm going to throw one other thing out here, too, and this one just sort of came to me as I was on the way over here for our recording session today. We didn't even put this one in the notes, so I'm going to put it.
Okay.
Guys and girls, especially you former athletes who have not worked out in a while, don't go into the gym and try to do your football workout or your softball workout or your lacrosse workout from high school. First of all, you're not in as good a shape as you were in high school. Your body has changed. The other part of that equation is, and I'm going to say, in some ways it's a little bit lesser, but it's still a concern. When you went in and you did the football, softball, lacrosse, pick whatever sport you played when you were growing up and through high school, maybe even in college, your goal of your workout was to get better at football or lacrosse or softball or soccer or whatever. Now that's not necessarily your goal. Your goal is to be better at life, to increase your range of motion, to decrease pain, to increase health. So that same workout, if you're not in the shape that you were starting out, think about this. You go into your first day of college lacrosse or college softball, you're already in shape.
Right.
Okay? Now you're going in the gym not in shape. Like, I have seen so many people get injured doing that. Oh, I'm just going to do the same workout I did when I was in college.
Yeah.
You're 40. You're not 21 anymore.
It's not going to work.
Right. It's just not, you're not going to yield it. And I'm going to tell you this. Not only have I seen it, I lived this one. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So I've talked about being overweight and all those things. One of the first times I went back into the gym, I tried to do a workout that I had done when I was fighting, not full time because that's the wrong word, but regularly when I was wrestling and fighting.
And how'd it work out?
Oh, it didn't. I was sore for days. I was sore for days.
Right.
Because, I'm not gonna say I hurt myself. I didn't hurt myself, but I made myself throw up. And I'm not a big fan of making yourself throw up when you work out.
We've talked about that before too.
Yep.
Not a good idea. Back to basics.
Back to basics, and that's that. The basics always come back to you, even if you are coming in from a more consistent spot in your training and in your fitness journey. Go back to basics. Maybe you've been hitting 5x5s for the last 6 months with your compound lifts. Go back to 4 sets of 10.
Right.
And work on your form and work on your tempo.
Yep.
Maybe you've been doing body weight exercises and plyometric drills and things like that. Mm-hmm. Go back to hitting the weights and working on the strength. Maybe you've been doing that 4 sets of 10 for too long. Maybe now it's time to go the other way and start working on a lower rep range.
Sure.
Or a higher rep range.
Right.
And stop living in that 4 sets of 10, not being able to add weight to the bar. Maybe you've been doing that, but now you're sort of stuck in a plateau. Add a band to your lift some way, shape, or form. Mm-hmm. Come check out one of us. Come check out Carol at Love Yourself Health Coaching. Come check me out at Rockstar Fitness here at Model A or at Coppermine Bel Air Athletic Club. Come check us out and let one of us show you how to take the next step in your fitness journey, whether it's nutrition, whether it's in the gym. The basics always come back, and if we don't have the basics down, we will never be able to progress.
Nope.
I'm going to assume that everyone listening to this knows who Michael Jordan is, because I know some of you young people. Michael Jordan famously would make 100 free throws before he left practice. From the first day he came into an NBA locker room to the day he walked out. You don't think 1996, 97, 98, those are 3 years he won his last 3 championships, by the way, in case you didn't know, knew how to shoot a free throw? But guess what? He wouldn't leave, and if he missed one, he would start back over.
I didn't know that.
Yep.
Okay. Basics.
The basics. Remember this quote. Amateurs practice to get it right, professionals practice so they can't get it wrong. If you don't work on your basics, no matter what level of fitness you're at, you are working on a cracked foundation. Get back to basics, no matter where you are in your fitness journey. If you're just starting out, learn them. If you've been consistent for a while, get back to them for a little while, because we want to end this the next year just as happy and as healthy as we did this one, right?
You got it.
All right. So that's all we got for today. Join us next week when we are going to get back to our nutrition and setting yourself up for success in the new year.
Yay.
Setting yourself up for nutrition for not just for the first 2 or 3 months, but for the long term.
You got it.
Because that's how we always want to go. We want to make this a long-term journey. So join us next week. Until then, check out Carol at Love Yourself Health Coaching. Check out me out at Rockstar Fitness on Facebook. DWebster023 on Instagram. Check the show out at She Lifts He Lift podcast on Instagram and She Lifts He Lifts on Facebook. And until next week, ladies and gentlemen,